Good morning and happy Wednesday. This is the Rangers Review morning briefing for Wednesday, the 10th of August. I'm Derek Clark and I'm joined by a full squad this morning. First of all, Johnny McFarlane. How are we doing, Johnny?
Good. Not much sleep, as I predicted last night. As anyone who watched the game, the post-match reaction to the game will know, I hijacked Josh's feed because I felt like I wanted to have my tuppence worth in there. I've given him a nice wee lie-in because he was up very late doing his piece from last night. And I'm looking forward to chatting a little bit more about the game.
Yeah, aren't we all? And Craig Vickers as well. Craig, you were at Ibrox last night. Bleary-eyed this morning. Did you get much sleep last night?
No, not really. I always struggle to sleep after these games. It's too big of a sort of emotional come down. So, yeah, I didn't get my full 8 hours, but hopefully I do tonight.
Yeah. Pray for Craig. Right, that's before we talk all things Rangers, folks. Just a reminder of the great offer we've got on the website just now. A lot of you taking advantage of it. So thank you for doing so and loving the content that we're producing. Just £2 for 2 months worth of content. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe for all the details. And as ever, I'll stick the link in the comment section as well. So if you click on that, you can find out how to sign up. So go and do so. Okay, let's talk all things Rangers then. Magnificent result last night, overturning a 2-0 deficit for the first time in history, not only Rangers history, but I believe in Scottish football history in Europe. So history.
I think it's been done before, Derek. I
Has
know
it done before?
That there has been
Who's done it before?
So I'm not going to tell you which one, but yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, in fact, it was a Rangers record. So brilliant performance last night. James Tavernier, of course, with the crucial penalty just before half-time. And then Antonio Colak levelled the tie with a close-range header before Malik Tillman, with the biggest leap you've ever seen in your life, nodding home the winner for a 3-0 victory. Johnny, it was never in doubt, was it?
It actually wasn't. To be honest, I didn't really feel like Rangers were anything but in control for most of the game, and certainly once the first goal went in. USG kind of crumbled amid the atmosphere, to be honest. The manager said after the game, it was a bit of a strange press. I don't know if Craig will agree with me in terms of it was a little bit contradictory. I know English isn't his first language, but he was sort of saying we did really well under the Ibrox atmosphere. We were really professional, but it was a factor. Like I'm not 100% sure what he was trying to get across there, but it was clear to me watching. I wasn't at the game. I was obviously watching the pictures come in and dealing with the website. It was clear to me that the Rangers fans and the cauldron they created was essentially a 12th man once again, and USG just didn't have an answer. But I thought there was a number of tactical questions posed by Rangers last night that obviously weren't there in the first leg, and it was an almost total turnaround. USG, I think, are a decent, well organised side, but they just couldn't cope in the face of a tidal wave of emotion that came from the stands, and fundamentally that was the difference once again. I think this is becoming a glorious European era at Ibrox, and once again we are heading towards a situation where it really is a fortress, and that can only be applauded, really.
Yeah, but before we come to you, Craig, I like this comment from James Strachan. What a team Rangers are, Johnny. How do you get? Are you getting on this train, the Malik Tillman train? That is, I think you can now be the driver. What a goal that was! Yeah, superb from the young man, and I loved his post-match interview as well. Craig, you were there at Ibrox. In terms of the atmosphere, how was it for you? I know it's an old cliche, but it really is a 12th, 13th, 14th man for Rangers on these European nights.
Yeah, you're right. And, I thought the crowd from the start was really, really on the players' side. I thought maybe up to about 35 minutes, there was a little period where, the sting was sort of taken out of the game. I think even, Union's manager referenced about Rangers turning the ball over too quickly, and he was talking about maybe the crowd getting a little bit restless, but I thought the first goal came at, the ideal time. I don't think...
Oh, I think we've lost Craig there. I think he needs to put 50 pence in his meter. We'll carry on, Johnny, in the meantime. As the first half was wearing
Don't expect any tactical insight from me, but I'll try my best.
As the first half was wearing on, how crucial do you think that penalty was at the end of the first half? You go in at half-time, it changes the whole complexion, doesn't it? And it, from a 1-goal deficit, it's much better than a 2-goal deficit at the break, isn't it?
It's huge. It's huge, Derek. The emotion of the game. Listen, we love to look at and analyse the technical aspects of the game and try and be a little bit more cold and rational and look at the facts. But there's a lot to football that's based on emotion. I talked about the stands and what was coming down from them. But that timing of that penalty and the coolness Tavernier showed is absolutely massive. At the end of the day, if you go in at 0-0 with 45 minutes to go to get 2 goals, you know you're facing a mountain. And when you get that penalty, you're facing a steep hill. But, you know, a significantly smaller obstacle to overcome. And that, to me, is the turning point in the game. It's absolutely a penalty, by the way, Derek. There's no doubt about it. The guy holds his arm out. It's inexplicable, terrible defending, and Rangers capitalise on it. But I think everyone who watches football understands there is an emotional element. There is an element that is almost irrational. And when you get a goal like that, it just completely changes the complexion of a tie.
Yeah.
I mean, Rangers hadn't played that well in the first half. It was okay. It was nearly... It looked fairly comfortable. I think John McLaughlin had one save to make.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, ultimately that was absolutely key. And then in the second half, you have to hand it to them. I thought they were much, much better.
Yeah. DWK says the penalty was pure karma. Yeah, you could say that after the controversial one that they received in Belgium, you've got to say. A lot of comments coming in here, Johnny, with regards to Tom Lawrence's performance. Charles Lyle says Lawrence was a revelation. Adam Story says Tom Lawrence oozing class. He really stood up last night, didn't he? He revelled in the occasion, and he was sensational, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. He was terrific, and throughout the game, he really imposed himself. You know, in a central midfield role. You know, we didn't think Tom Lawrence would be playing in that area. We thought he'd be across the front three, or perhaps in a number 10. I think that's Craig arrived back. We can add him to the stream now. Hello, you're back. I'm just talking about Tom Lawrence. I thought he was fantastic and added a different dimension, showed a lot of composure, was up and down, never tired, showed great fitness. And listen, I've been banging on about Tom Lawrence since I first saw him. Derek, you've been banging on about him before he arrived at Ibrox. Yeah. So you were the first on the Tom Lawrence train because you saw him when you were commentating on games down south. Yeah. And you warned us the minute he was linked. A lot of people were saying, "No, I'm not exactly sure about that one. That seems a little bit left field." You said, "No, this guy's a player," and I think that's been proven to be correct.
Yeah. What do you think, Craig, watching them up close and personal? Paul McGregor says Lawrence was brilliant. That's what we've been missing. What do you make of his performance last night?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I thought, especially second half, I thought he really drove Rangers forward. I thought his ball for Colak's header in terms of that crossfield pass to Tavernier was right on the money. You know, I thought first half he maybe struggled a little bit, but I thought second half he really got into it. And you know, this is why he was signed, to play those sort of cutting through balls, that the one he did play to Tavernier. So yeah, I thought he was immense. I thought there was a few good individual performances. You probably touched on him when my Wi-Fi dropped out about Tillman last night. I thought he was outstanding as well. I thought Colak had his best performance in a Rangers shirt. Tavernier, his usual sort of 7 out of 10. So yeah, I thought it was a few good performances.
You say that, but you gave him 6 in your man-by-man ratings.
Yeah, so...
explain yourself.
So I was writing these ratings, and I've done ratings before for different organisations, and a little bit more liberal in terms of, how high you rate players. And I turned to Josh and I was like, what's sort of your average for ratings? And he was like, maybe about 5 if it's standard, and I was like having to change about 3-4 ratings because I had like people down at 3s and people up at 9. So I was like, I need to average these out a bit. But yeah, just take those with a pinch of salt. I'll learn for next time.
Well, I get absolutely hammered last week, so it's in terms of player ratings, you can never win, Craig. That's what I find.
I mean, to be fair, Derek, I should hold my hands up and just explain this. Now that we're away from it, what happened was Derek submitted his match ratings last week, and he had missed out a sentence and a half and the player rating for Tavernier. I noticed this as I was subbing it and thought, right, crikey, Tavernier, oh, it's 6. Popped it in, put it out on social media, and was hit with a tidal wave of Tavernier 6. You must be joking! Ridiculous! Have you got? Can you even see? Derek, you need new specs. Deirdre Barlow's specs aren't working. Blah 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 blah. And poor Derek, he was going, I'm getting pelters. I went to give him a 5. I said, well, you left it blank. What am I supposed to do? I'm doing other things. I'm not, it was a night. So it was my fault. Derek got pelters, but we fixed it.
Yeah, all's well that ends well at the end of the day. It's
the thing is, people would have thought that we changed it because you were getting pelters, but actually, it was just a
faux pas, folks. But Tavernier was the main man last night again, as he always is in these European nights. Tillman, Johnny, Malik Tillman stepping up to the plate last night. I think he's arrived now as a Rangers player. We were having a discussion earlier on in the week. You said you weren't quite on board the train. I think that goal will be massive for him, and what a leap as well. I've seen that and been photoshopped onto Ronaldo's body and what have you. It was a terrific goal, worthy of winning any game. Yeah,
Ronaldo-esque, absolutely correct. The power that you need in your legs to make that kind of jump is significant, and the keeper was nowhere near it. Absolutely nowhere. It was bad goalkeeping. There's no doubt about that. But an incredible leap to get so high above the goalie. And listen, Tillman's got all the talent in the world. He still flutters in and out of games, but God, if Rangers can get this guy to put it together, if this guy can get consistent, I know he's just young. I'd be considering, if I was Rangers, kind of activating that clause.
Yeah, immediately.
Because it's clear there's something serious there. It's, by the way, it's not small money we're talking about here.
Yeah,
with Tillman, I think it's around £6 million. So we're not talking about small beer here. But there anyone can see, a blind man can see that this guy is someone who has got serious talent.
Yeah, no question about it. Another player I wanted to speak about, Craig, and everyone's loving his Instagram post-game, is that of John Lundstram. Now, he came out in the pre-match press conference speaking about the disrespect shown by the Union players in the first leg. For me, I would cut them a wee bit of slack. I know they've come from obscurity in Belgian football. They've just beaten the Europa League runners-up, and the celebrations were, you could say, a bit OTT last week. I was there, and they were enjoying themselves, shall we say. I don't really say it was disrespectful as much, but in terms of on the field, I know that he was getting a bit from especially the Union fans who were booing him last week. And their skipper was trying to give him a bit, and he wasn't taking any of it. But I loved his post last night that's been doing the rounds. And again, he just loves these occasions, doesn't he?
Yeah. I think Van Bronckhorst alluded to it post-match. He said that I think he plays with fire in these games, which I think which sums up pretty nicely. I thought he was very, very good last night. And yeah, you're really limited in terms of the way that they play. They obviously play through their captain, Teddy Tuma, a lot, and I thought that you limited him to very, very little. I think if you look at Tuma's pass map from last night, pretty much everything is sort of concentrated in the wide areas. He just couldn't get on the ball. And obviously Union didn't really try and play for 60, 70 minutes of the game until obviously Rangers went 2-0 up. So yeah, I thought Lundstram was immense. I thought his passing was very good in terms of, he's raking those long diagonals. There was one to Tavernier in the first half. It was one to Kent as well, where it just sort of slightly overhit, and I think he sort of ran out for a corner. But yeah, I thought he was immense. He drove Rangers on, and it's a difficult task, especially when you're the sort of lone sitting midfielder and you've got two more advanced ahead of you. You know, it can be difficult. You can be faced with a bit of tidal waves, especially in transition. But I thought he stood up to it, and I thought, you know, it was like contrast that 2 months ago with that Alishkert game. I think it was the same referee that set him off, which is obviously sort of nice. But yeah, I thought it was immense, and you know, it's just sort of testament to his improvement over the last year or so.
Yeah, most definitely. Johnny, Antonio Colak, our main man, getting on the score sheet again, and I love his movement for this goal. I know he's scored from about a yard out, but he keeps himself onside. The footwork's brilliant, and he's aware. He's alive when the ball hits off the goalkeeper. Another goal for him in the bank, and I think he's slowly winning supporters round. Some maybe a bit come in for a bit of harsh criticism, especially last week, as we touched on. And I think it was a bit unfair, to be honest with you. But again, putting a tireless shift in last night, and he got his goal, got his reward. Delighted for him, and listen, you can't really ask for any more, can you?
No, absolutely, you can't. Colak, for me, has always been a Rangers success waiting to happen. I've been pretty clear about that on this pod. Even when he was getting seriously criticised, I highlighted the fact that he had a brilliant goal that was unfairly disallowed against Livingston. And his goal record since he arrived at Rangers is now looking really, really, really good, to be honest, if you're including the friendlies into it. The guy is mobile for a big man. He's got a decent touch. But here's the thing, he's a penalty box striker. And if you feed him, he'll score. And, you saw the XG differential between what that goal was against who were they playing at the weekend? Remind me, my mind is going straight in my mind.
Yeah,
Kilmarnock, sorry, 0.17 up to 0.83 after he hit the ball. Just shows you the quality that he has in his right boot. And I think he can go on and be the top scorer this year. I really do. The type of player that he is, I think he will thrive in games where Rangers have traditionally, in the last few years, this setup since Gerrard arrived, he will thrive in the type of games and against the type of teams where in the past sometimes Rangers have struggled. So I'm really happy with him. I think he's looking like a bargain at the price that was paid. And I have no concerns whatsoever about Colak, and the notion that Alfredo Morelos is getting himself fit eventually. I'll be honest with you, I think Alfredo looks a little bit on the chubby side at the moment.
I think he's sort of the Wayne Rooney shape, isn't he? He needs to get a run of games to get lean. I think that's the thing with Alfredo. But
we've seen it a few times before with Alfredo, where he gets himself sharp over time. But he's under pressure because Colak's looking good, and I don't think he's going to take too much time to hit the ground running if we're judging it by what we've seen so far.
Yeah, absolutely. It only bodes well, as Sonny Boy says, only getting warmed up. It really is exciting. Next up, Craig, though, is a step up, you'd have to say, in level. PSV Eindhoven defeated Monaco last night after extra time. A real battle between the pair. They won the match. Incidentally, Joey Veerman scored the only goal for PSV. Rangers will be coming up against him in the match. It'll be interesting. They can't afford a leg like we've seen in Belgium, can they? Because PSV have a bit more quality about them, you'd have to say.
Yeah, and the dynamic's different because obviously the first leg's at Ibrox and then the second leg's away. So obviously I think that the Red Star game was similar to that, but I think obviously PSV are a step up from Red Star. So it's going to be different. Rangers, the Ibrox game, that they're not going to know exactly what sort of scoreline they're going to need. That they've had that clarity the last few European ties. So it's going to be different. How does Van Bronckhorst set up at home? Does he go for it? Does he try and get maybe a 2-goal lead, or does he try and keep it tight and then maybe go over there and try and nick a goal? Because it's interesting, because there's a lot sort of riding on the game, but they've got immense quality. That midfield three that they've got in terms of Veerman and Singari, he was highly sought after as well, and Till in the middle as well. and obviously got Luke De Jong up front, who was once of Barcelona. So look, it's going to be difficult. I know Van Bronckhorst was speaking about it last night in terms of it's Van Nistelrooy's first sort of steps into management. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. But I think that Rangers have shined against these top class sort of European opposition, especially under Van Bronckhorst, more than they have against sort of comparative teams. So yeah, it'll be an interesting one. But I think especially at Ibrox, Rangers have to back themselves to win the game and give themselves somewhat of a cushion.
Yeah, both sides will fancy their chances, Johnny, but this is a team with real quality littered throughout. I mean, they've got a guy, Cody Gakpo, is apparently Man United sniffing about £35 million rated player. These are no mugs. Rangers are going to have to produce the sort of performance we've seen last season in the Europa League run if they want to get past PSV here.
Yeah. Waiting for Manchester United to do anything in the transfer market is a fool's errand, I would suggest.
Well,
don't be expecting that transfer to go through any time before next winter. No, I mean, listen, they're a good team. The guy that stands out to me in terms of the danger man, it's kind of obvious. Joey Veerman's a very good player. We know him quite well, given that we did a number of scouting reports, things like that on him at the Rangers Review when he was heavily linked with Rangers. And we know for a fact, or I know for a fact, Rangers were very, very, very interested and wanted to take him, but unfortunately, defeat to Malmo last season scuppered the kind of financial outlay that would have required. But I think if you look at Rangers from set plays this season so far, looking a bit ropey. Something needs to be done, needs to be worked on. I think Ben Davis, the sooner we can get him into that Rangers lineup, the better for everyone concerned. I think James Stans is a useful utility player and doesn't let himself down and is useful, especially against lower lights, to bring the ball out. But if we're talking about going up against a really top-class PSV side, I think Ben Davis needs to be there to help combat the guy who I'm talking about, which is Luke De Jong. Now, he kind of became a bit of a figure of fun because he went to Barcelona on loan from Seville and didn't really perform. I think 6 and 21 or something like that he scored. It's kind of seen as the perfect emblem of the Barca malaise that they would bring in a player like that. But not good enough to make it at Barcelona and make a huge splash at Barcelona doesn't mean you aren't good enough to cause serious damage to Rangers. And De Jong's goal record in the Eredivisie has been absolutely sensational across 2 different clubs. 2 different spells at PSV and 20 as well when he was there. So at that level, he's excellent. He's 6'2", he's powerful, he's a nuisance. And if Rangers continue to be so weak on set plays, Luke De Jong is a man who will absolutely punish them. So for me, that's a key battle and one that Rangers will have to be very, very, very wary of.
Yeah, totally agree. Scott Marshall says that a repeat of the 1999 game against PSV will do nicely. Absolutely, they blew them away that night. They were so good, Rangers, that evening. What a side PSV had then as well. They've done the double actually in that Champions League group, of course.
George Albert's volley 1-0 in Eindhoven.
Yeah, and we'll take that as well. A similar sort of scenario. It's a huge game financially, Johnny, as well. I mean, Rangers received €5 million, if I'm right in thinking, for qualifying last night. This game worth, what, £40 million?
So to clarify, mate, what it means is getting through. They've not won anything from getting through. But when you drop out, if you don't get through, there is a parachute solidarity payment of €30 million between the teams that didn't make it at this stage, the playoff stage. So Rangers would get €5 million plus whatever they get from the Europa League. So it's a big difference. It's significant, and it's a nice little landing pad, as it were, should they be unable to overcome PSV. Yeah. But let's be honest, the real riches, 35 to 40 million guaranteed, are if you get to the Champions League, and that is transformative to Rangers' financial budgeting. It's transformative to what they could potentially do in the transfer market. I would not be surprised one little bit, for example, if Rangers get to the Champions League, if you see a significant signing, because the money would be there. The club would be able to budget for things in future. Now, the question would be, where would Rangers actually improve? I would say a box-to-box midfielder of real, genuine, unassailable quality. Difficult to get, even at the £6-7 million mark, but I think that kind of money would be freed up potentially if the right player became available, should they get into the Champions League. But, the Rangers board are spending money all over the club in an attempt to bring it up to standards. You see the difference in Murray Park. You see, what was Murray Park is now the Rangers Training Centre. You see the difference at Ibrox. You see what's happening at Edmiston House. So there is significant infrastructure spending going on, and perhaps that would take precedent. But it's absolutely huge. £40 million. I mean, what a difference that could make.
Yeah, it's transfer.
Oh, and one other thing. Sorry, just one other thing. There's a chain of events that if Rangers were, I know I'm massively getting ahead of myself here, but if Rangers get to the Champions League and Kiev beat Benfica, I've read, I've not verified this, but I'm pretty sure it's right. I've read that Rangers would go into pot 3 as opposed to pot 4, which would obviously give them a much better chance of making the certainly the Europa League later stages, but certainly the Champions League last 16. And I mean, I don't need to tell you that the amount of riches that are on offer if you can get through the group stages at 10 million prize money alone, euros, for I think it's 9.6 for getting into the last 16. And then you've got the TV money and all that on top of that. So it's just absolutely berserk for a team like Rangers to be able to pump that kind of money into their P&L.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Yeah, interesting. David Johnson is annoyed with you, Johnny. That was his nugget of information. So you're still his thunder there, but Craig, there was a point made. Johnny touched on it about Ben Davis. Now Maxwell 99 gets in touch here. He says Davis hasn't done anything to show he's good enough yet. Rangers, of course, have a match at the weekend. St Johnstone, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And then, of course, it's PSV. It comes around really quickly. I think it's a week today. They play PSV. Is that right? Or is it next Tuesday? Next Tuesday they play the home leg, and then it's a week on next Wednesday they play the away leg in Eindhoven. Ben Davis, for you, would you sort of? It remains to be seen if he's fit enough to start the game. We've seen him, of course, coming on in Belgium as a substitute. Would you be inclined to keep the Goldson Sands partnership going?
It's a difficult one because, especially with Davis, and you can throw Yilmaz into this conversation as well, that these guys need to get up to speed somehow. So, in a home game against St Johnstone at the weekend, and that's no disrespect to St Johnstone, they'll be tough and they'll come and make it difficult. But these are the type of games where these players need to play so they're up to speed. You don't want a scenario where Rangers can't call on these guys against PSV because they aren't match fit enough, So I think we will see a fair few changes on Saturday again, especially with PSV in mind. I think Davis will come in. I thought he'd come in on Saturday again, but I was surprised that he didn't feature against Kilmarnock. But I think Yilmaz will come back in. A little bit surprised he didn't start last night, but I thought Barisic, the crowd was on his back from the first minute, but I thought he responded, perfectly in terms of, it was his 2 crosses that basically obviously led to the first penalty, and then, it was his cross which Tillman stuck away. So, yeah, I think we'll see a fair few changes on Saturday, and I think, Davis will be one of them.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see what team is put out for the Premiership match at the weekend. You imagine many changes, Johnny? We'll do a predicted lineups later on in the week, but can you foresee a number of changes? The thing is with the Rangers squad just now, it's so strong and that you don't necessarily weaken the first 11 when you do make a number of changes.
No, that's it, and that's the big difference from last year. There really are options. There's options off the bench, Derek, and there's options in terms of the starting lineup as to how you want to approach the game. Let's be honest, St Johnstone are dross. They're bad. So, and I say that with all due respect. I'm from Perth, and I really like St Johnstone, and they're a team that I look out for in terms of the results, but they are not a good side at the moment. And I think that they've bought in a number of players over the course of the summer, and those players are going to take a wee bit of time to gel. So Callum Davison is actually a really good coach. He showed that in his first year when he won the 2 cups, and they were actually an excellent team at that point. But last year it was just such a drop in standards. And this season, I think it's up in the air as to whether or not they've improved. So we'll see over the course of the coming games whether or not St Johnstone have elevated themselves above that sort of dross level that they were last season. And certainly if they can get back to the levels of 2 seasons ago, they'll be a really dangerous opponent. But my impression, looking at the signings they've made and watching the highlights of the first 2 games they played, I don't see them being a big trouble for Rangers when it comes to coming to Ibrox. I think that's going to be a really, really, really difficult game for them. So it's a great opportunity for me for the players to rack up some numbers, to get in about St Johnstone and really disrupt them and lay a marker down, because ultimately this league is going to come down to firepower between Rangers and Celtic, the style of play Celtic have, the setup they have, the philosophy Ange Postecoglou has is all about attacking overloads, overwhelming teams, scoring loads of goals, and Rangers will have to do that. If they can't do that, that's going to be the difference, unfortunately. So I think St Johnstone is a very, very good place to start that ball rolling this season, because Livingston away is tough. Kilmarnock's always going to be tough under Derek McInnes. Expect that to be back to the kind of Steve Clark level, maybe not quite the Steve Clark level Kilmarnock, but I don't think Kilmarnock will be far off the top 6 if they're not in the top 6 this season. And if McInnes stays around, they're going to be in the top 6 next season, because he's a top manager at this level. So yeah, that's how I see it.
Yeah, I think St Johnstone will be very much with trying to contain Rangers, very much like Kilmarnock last Saturday, and it's up to Rangers to break them down. Just before we go, a bit of information last night. Of course, Jack Simpson has departed the club. He signed for Cardiff City for an undisclosed fee. That's a permanent deal as well. So he's moved on. So we wish Jack well. It didn't really quite work out for him at Rangers. But
now part of the wrong movie, Loyal, down there.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he gets on down there in the Championship. Okay, folks, that'll do us there. Thanks to everyone for getting in touch. As ever, it's greatly appreciated. Remember, we've got that offer on the website. You can see the ticker below, just £2 for 2 months worth of content. It's just £2.99 per month thereafter. It's an absolute bargain. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe for all the details. And if you like our YouTube content, there's so much on our channel just now. All the reaction from last night, both from the Rangers perspective and from Union Saint-Gilloise as well. And you also get the match reaction from Joshua on there also. So if you hit subscribe, you'll never miss a video as we go live also. Okay, we'll be back again tomorrow. But until then, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.